Hello and welcome to I24 News Sports Weekend Edition with some of the best stories we had in our magazine this past week. We begin with a look at the World Cup, which is exactly 2 months away. One of the major concerns for the organizers of the World Cup in Brazil is preventing violence in the stands, as too many times these places turn to be violent venues, resulting in death and misery. Liz Barnbaum tells us how the Brazilian security forces are planning to tackle that and reminds us of some of the terrible tragedies from the past.
2 months before the beginning of the World Cup, Brazil has great concerns. In less than a year, 3 accidents cost their workers' lives at the stadium's construction sites in Brasilia, Manaus, and Sao Paulo. Deaths by crane accidents or fatal falls are problems that freeze the stadium's funding and threaten the organization of football's grandest event, causing the Brazilian government to justify itself.
There was an accident, but in any case, it was to be delivered later than December. There was a delay with the transfer of funds for the Curitiba Stadium. But what I can tell you is that these stadiums will be delivered on time for test events for the World Cup to go ahead.
Despite the urgency of the current situation, FIFA tries to keep the faith.
FIFA can now send, I would say we would send or ask God, Allah, whoever, that no more accident shall arise in the connection with the World Cup.
Caused by hooligans or security fails, disasters are not new in the history of football. The United Kingdom is unfortunately a chosen place for these terrible accidents. On April 15, 1989, the FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest became England's worst stadium-related disaster, as 96 people were crushed to death at the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield. A recent study on the tragedy denounced the responsibility of the police and even set an apology from Prime Minister David Cameron, along with comments by England's football stars.
I knew that it was a lie when they said the Liverpool fans caused the disaster and when they said that the Liverpool fans were robbing the bodies. I knew that wasn't true. What I'm happy about is that the truth has come out.
On May 29, 1985, the Heysel Stadium in Brussels was the place of another tragic stampede. Just before the European Cup final between Liverpool and Juventus, Liverpool fans breached a fence separating them from a neutral area, which contained Juventus fans. A wall collapsed as a result, and 39 people lost their lives. France had drama of its own with the Fioriani Stadium disaster in 1992. The Coupe de France semi-final between Bastia and Marseille turned into a tragic affair as one of the terraces collapsed, resulting with 18 dead and 2,300 injured. In Europe, these disasters have had legal consequences. The outdoor facilities of over 3,000 spectators are now regulated by law in France. The same goes for England, where fans are accommodated in modern, ultra-secured and all-seated stadiums. In Egypt, however, football-affiliated violence reached new heights. On February 1, 2012, fans of Al Masry and Al Ahly clashed in the Port Said Stadium after Al Masry's 3-1 victory. The fans were armed with weapons and knives, battling it out in the stands, while the police forces acted overwhelmed. The riot resulted with 79 deaths and thousands of wounded.
It was only a football game. What was all this about? You'll win or lose, and you won, so why did you do that? It's only a football game. 50 people die for what?
In January 2013, the Egyptian court sentenced 21 people to the death penalty for participating in these violent acts, a decision rejected by protesters who denounced the actions of the police.
It's not the first time Al Masry has faced Al Ahly. It's not the first time we've had these kind of slogans being shouted. That's not what caused the deaths of 77 people. It's clearly a conspiracy. Security was weak and the police did nothing.
Brazil still has a few weeks for securing its stadiums and ensuring peace and quiet for football fans. Let's hope the country makes a proper job so we won't have to see these kind of pictures again.
And one of the tragedies mentioned in the story is the one in Corsica 22 years ago. French politician and former sports journalist Avi Assouli was badly injured at the site in Bastia. On that tragic night, he was on the verge of death for weeks, and he spoke with us and went back to the events leading up to the terrible incident.
I used to follow the Olympe de Marseille team, so I decided to go to Bastia for the semi-finals of the French Cup. It was supposed to be a very explosive game because it was played by 2 teams from the south of France. A part of the stadium had been dismantled previously, and they announced that they would build a temporary stand for 10,000 people in barely 10 days. We also learned afterwards that they sold more tickets than available seats. So we went to this stand around 8 p.m. with our material, and we started to notice that it was moving a little. But with the other journalists, we were really not expecting something like this. It was unthinkable. Around 8:10, the speaker started to ask everyone not to move too much, not to make too much noise. It was weird because it's usually something that you were being asked at a tennis court, not in a football stadium. So I started to talk. I said I am up there and I can barely see the players, but I can feel it's moving. It feels like a boat. I hope I will be here at the end of the game. I don't know why I said that. At 8:20, boom, the stand collapsed and I woke up 21 days later.
And with us now in the studio is our football analyst, Yoav Borovic. Hi, Yoav.
Hi, Jonathan.
Yoav, we've seen so many violent incidents in Brazilian stadiums just this past year, and yet the politicians say, once the World Cup comes, everything is going to be okay. Should we trust them?
To a certain extent, maybe yes, because we know about Brazilian violence, as you said. And you know, a lot of violence in Brazilian football is among fan bases. You know, when the Flamengo fans, the violence among themselves sometimes is much greater
one
than the violence.
One fan base against the other fan base of the same team.
And you know, it's a lot of people, a lot of poor people, a lot of people who come there with violent aggressions, and it's really a problem. But in the World Cup, when we have totally different fan bases, a lot, you know, many tourists, I'm not saying that the fans will not drink, and some of them will not want to be violent.
Usually,
but also the
World
policing,
Cup
World Cup fans, it's more, the World Cup is a big, you know, it's almost like the Olympics. It's a big global party. Still, we'll have some heated matches here and there, and we'll have some heated fans, but I think the policing will be much different, and I don't expect the same level of violence in the World Cup.
Now, we've seen two examples in the story, the Middlesbrough disaster and the Hazel disaster, both involving English fans, and that's when England said, enough. And the Taylor Commission was set, and England found the way to deal with this problem. Are other countries following this example, or is England still standing by itself?
We know that the Taylor report in English football really changed English football, because what it did basically, it eliminated the standing gates, and it eliminated financially for a lot of people, lower class people who came there.
They cannot go to football anymore.
They could not, it changed. You know, they can still maybe go, the prices are very, very different. England is the only country where a football ticket will cost you more than an opera ticket, which is crazy. But also when you started treating the fans as human beings and not as cattle like they were treated before, so they also behave differently.
And then maybe it's not very nice to say, but this is not the game of the masses anymore. And if it is the game of the masses, then we'll see violence, because football is just an aspect of society.
Yeah, it's not the game of the masses like it used to be, but still also people come and they behave differently because they're being treated differently. True, the financing is different. You know, the tickets are higher, but also the mentality now in English football is much different, and people don't come to pick a fight like they used to 20, 30 years ago. You know, and the people who do come to pick a fight, you can count them today, and it used to be thousands and thousands. Where you get the violence?
It's different.
Yeah, and the English national team, when they go abroad for a few days, they drink all day.
And that's when it happens. Yoav, please stay with us for our next subject, and our next subject is Barcelona. It was going through some difficult times. The loss in the quarterfinal of the Champions League on Wednesday ended a terrible week for the club, a week that began with the news of the harsh punishment by FIFA, banning Barcelona from making any transfer until next summer. This comes at a time when Barcelona has no goalkeeper for next season. No one knows when Victor Valdés will return from injury, and even if he recuperates, he already said he wants to leave the club. Will they now have to rely on 38-year-old Pinto for an entire season? Who will come instead of Puyol, who announced he will leave the club? Will he still do it under the new circumstances? A lot of questions, no real answers. Liz Barenboim with a story that is creating major concern in Catalonia.
Barcelona are used to being in the headlines, but this time they aren't getting the best public relations. The Catalan Giants have been surrounded by scandals throughout the 2014 season, including financial issues and illegal transfers. Barça is an undisputed institution and one of the most successful clubs in Spanish and European football. Formed in 1899, the club holds a record of 22 league championships, 26 Copa del Rey wins, and 4 Champions League titles. The team also cultivates an image of tolerance. For instance, in 2013, the players made a 2-day tour in Israel to promote peace in the Middle East. Barcelona is also a proud representative of Catalonia, and its motto, more than a club, reflects its social ambitions. The club is managed by its supporters, the famous socios, who vote the major strategic directions of their team. but lately it seems that the pseudo-democratic functioning has lost its authenticity. Behind its clean image, Barcelona is strictly a business. In August 2013, in debt with 440 million euros, the club had to bow down and accept the sponsorship of Qatar Airways. Some might say that Barca sold its soul to the devil, but nevertheless, the team stars don't hesitate to play in commercials, sealing the alliance with the Qatari company. In 2013, Leo Messi was indicted for tax fraud. He and his father have allegedly falsified income declarations to avoid paying taxes on the superstar's image rights. Messi denied the accusations on his Facebook page, but eventually ended up paying $5 million to the Spanish tax authorities. The troubles continued with the questionable transfer fee for Neymar, which caused Sandro Rosé to resign from his position as the club's president in January.
It has been an honor to serve Barca. It has been a privilege to be president of Football Club Barcelona. I wish the best to the new president and ask members to give him full support.
The latest crisis concerns the transfer of players aged under 18. Between 2009 and 2013, 10 minor players played for the team. This is considered a serious misconduct by FIFA, which in response banned Barca from buying players for the next 2 transfer windows. Barcelona has decided to appeal the decision. However, the case sheds light on the questionable methods of the Masia training facility recruitment process, which discovered big names like Piqué, Puyol, and Iniesta.
No es toca la Masia.
Hands off La Masia. We will fight against this sentence and this drastic punishment FIFA wants to give us. We will fight to the end because this is a system that has been working for 35 years and has made this club and the first team the leader in world football for a decade.
Lideri a l'última dècada al futbol mundial.
Despite the recent controversies, Barcelona is still one of the biggest teams in the world and will do anything in its powers to remain that way.
And for years, Barcelona claimed to be the cleaner club, raising their own players at La Masia and not as compared with Real Madrid, who pays hundreds of millions of euros every summer. But then again, we see they're just as dirty.
Yeah, also they didn't have sponsors on their shirts. Now they do with the Qatari Airlines. Even now, even this summer, they published that Neymar cost them 50 million euros.
Cost eventually, more than double that.
Cost more than double, and the president went home. There was a lot of corruption involved.
And this Messi tax
not
thing,
paying
not
taxes.
Unclear what's going on
now
there.
The junior players, 10 junior players coming into the club against UEFA regulations. Now they're getting the severe punishment. I think we already know that Barcelona can also be dirty when it needs to. I'm not comparing and contrasting Barca and Real. It's different systems. But there are no righteous in this.
No righteous at all.
In this war.
Now the question is, Barcelona already said they'll try to appeal this ban. Does it stand any chance?
I think yeah, because we know in world football things change all the time. The regulation is not very strong, so they got a severe punishment. I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of politics going behind the scenes that we don't even know about, and in those politics, things are closed. So we don't know about that. But if the punishment will stand, it's a very severe punishment because we know how Barcelona is not a very strong team at the moment.
Now, one thing though that has to be said: prices have gone they've reached crazy amounts, and the ages of the players just go down and down. We see the clubs paying hundreds of millions of euros for 12 or 13-year-old kids. Maybe that's the message FIFA is sending.
Right, and this is why Barcelona bringing those kids. And there are some firm regulations, and they broke those regulations, allegedly. But because today you need the stars, and La Masia was such a success because it was able to bring the greatest talents from all over Spain, all over Europe, and sometimes all over the world.
And we saw that bring success to the club.
Look at Messi when he's 10 or 11 years old. He comes, the president of Barcelona, the general manager comes. The story goes that he got into the small stadium.
Signs on a handkerchief.
The story is that he came back from the Sydney Olympics. Messi was a 10-year-old, 11-year-old playing.
He saw him for 2 minutes, and he said, "I want this guy."
Before he sat down, he said, "Sign the guy, sign the boy." So yeah, they do it not only with Messi, and they have a great youth system, but there is a price. The regulations, they cross the regulations. I hope they're going to pay the price because I hope other clubs will see. And then you cannot just, being like slave dealers with those kids.
And then if they pay the price, what's going to happen next season? We saw it just now against Atletico Madrid. Barcelona needs new blood. They don't have a goalkeeper right now, a first goalkeeper. What is going to happen?
They don't have a goalkeeper. They don't have a good central defender. They don't have a lot of players. Xabi is beyond his prime. You know, even people say that Messi is passing his prime. They have some problems with forwards. A lot of players. You know, this club is a strong club, but still it has to go through an overhaul. And it's going to be very tough with the new restrictions.
Well, we'll have to see if the punishment hangs on and what's going to happen in the summer. Yoav Borovic, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And that's it for this weekend edition. Thank you for watching. Don't forget you can watch this and every other edition on our website at i24news.tv. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.